Broadcasting from Ireland, featuring interviews with some of the biggest names in magic. Welcome to the Deceive Reality Podcast with your hosts, David Peace and Steve Spade.
And we're back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Deceive Reality Podcast. My name is David Peace. I'm joined again by Steve Spade. Steve, how are you doing?
Oh, good, guys. How are you?
Good. And we've got a very special guest this week, Alan Rorisson. Alan, how are you getting on?
How are you doing, folks? Living the dream as always. I can't complain. Nothing to complain about.
Absolutely. That's the best way to be. Keep the vibes good and go from there, I guess.
I woke up this morning. It's the best. Any day you wake up, you're good. That's the way I look at it.
Keep the expectations low. And it's like
it can only get better, man. It can only get better.
100%. So, we always like to start these podcasts with a very simple question, but something people get asked quite a bit. But how did you get into this magic world? And also kind of find your style of performance?
Right. There could be two avenues you take with that question. Is it how did I get into magic, or how did I get into the community as it is just now? In fact, the first one's a quick and easy one to answer. I like most people in the UK and Ireland and all that, well, Europe mostly, I got a Paul Daniels magic kit when I was 9, and it just stuck, unfortunately. It was the kid next door got it for Christmas and he hated it, and it got passed into me, and it just kind of stuck. So it wasn't even my gift, but yeah, I can't complain. And then into the community, it was I was where I live. It's not like a massive town, so I'm still the only magician for a good 40-mile radius. And it wasn't until I started going to Tam Shepherd's in Glasgow, to Roy Walton shop, and I kind of got into the magic scene in the community through that way. But yeah, magic kit, and then just talking to older magicians is how I got dragged into this whole decrepit art.
Exactly.
Weird underground world that we all exist within. With a lot of stuff you've brought out, it's a lot of the close up and maybe street ready type performances, that sort of more urban style. Was that always kind of your style when you're performing, or did you ever try the top hats and tails going all formal stuff?
When I'm gigging, I'm mostly dressed up. I'm not like top hats and tails per se. I wear a nice suit. I do like to wear a nice suit and be dressed nice and that kind of thing. But the odd thing, that's just if I'm gigging. I found I perform more when I'm not gigging. I'll take on 3 gigs a week. I used to do 5 days a week. I'll now take on about 3, and that'll be about it. But I'll find I perform more when I'm not gigging. So it just, the casualness of it just kind of seeped into what I was doing, and then that kind of seeped into what I created because I was doing more stuff casually. So I needed more stuff that worked casually. But performing wise, I've done the whole dressed up stuff. I've done some stage. I do a lot of parlor. I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades on it. I do a little bit of everything.
That's really good. Yeah,
it's good as well in that kind of casual setting. If you're working in a new effect or something, and the pressure isn't on. Obviously, you can put it into your working repertoire and work it in that way. But it's nice to kind of feed it in, especially if it's a concept of your own or a new idea or something like that.
The handy thing I have here is, this is probably the same where you are as well. There's certain countries where, your friend circle will just always be brutally honest with you.
Yeah.
They won't blow smoke. It'll just be either that's awesome or that sucks, and it just is what it is. The friend circle I've got here will call you on something if it just doesn't look right, or if it's just a shit trick. So I think that's why I like testing all that stuff in a more casual setting, because you'll get the honesty with it. Yeah. Where if it's a paid gig, people are more inclined to be a bit more polite.
I think as well, when you're sitting around with people as well, afterwards, if you're in a bar and you do a trick for friend of a friend who doesn't really know you, but then you're going to be with each other for 3-4 hours after that, carrying on and stuff.
Yeah.
So the conversation that usually happens at a gig when you leave is happening now, where they try to break down the trick and stuff like that. Yep. And I think that's really helpful as well, because sometimes the thing is at a gig, someone can be too polite, be oh, that was amazing. And then you walk away and they're well, he clearly did this. But if you're with them for the whole night, you hear that as well, and you can work on it.
Well, this is one of the sort of weird things I've noticed. And next time you're at a big convention like Blackpool or something like that, keep an eye on this at the bar. When somebody will do one trick that they think they've been working on and they've been just mulling over this trick and treating it like a baby and try and make it their own and that kind of thing. And they'll perform it for someone, and then you'll see the person try and pick it apart a little bit. And the person that performed it will get really defensive on it. It's kind of one of those weird things that we can't let people see our ego in that way. We have to get a bit defensive on it. It took a couple of years for me to figure out not to do that and just sit and listen, because you're going to pick up on, they're seeing stuff that you, from your angle, haven't seen. So listening is just going to help make that trick better. So it's one of those kind of weird things a lot of magicians find really hard, and it's just to kind of get out of their own arse a little bit. Understand that it might look bad from an angle, or someone else might spot something, or something might be a bit too obvious. So if it is in a more casual sense, you're absolutely right. It's handy being able to get that feedback directly. And almost better if the person can take the piss out a little bit for it as well, if they're a buddy and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Because it is that thing is like, me and Steve often talk about, like, you learn all these new tricks, you're like so excited to go perform them, and then you get to a gig and you never take them out of your pocket because you're like, I'm just going to stick with my heavy hitters here. So for something to actually break through that and get into your working repertoire, it must be something that like has excited you in a way, and it's more than likely you've gotten like killer reactions. I've
got two cases. I've got two close-up cases. So I've got one that is just my set. I know it works, and that's what I want to do. And then I've got a second case that I can grab, which is my set. Like, and when I say my set, there's no fluff in it. It's the stuff that I can take out and put in my pockets, and I'm good to go for any gig. But then there's also a bunch of other stuff. Now, if my wife knows now as well, if I'm taking the other case, she knows now that I'm going to be road testing some stuff in this, and I might be a bit grumpy when I get back because it's not worked the way I wanted it to work. But I do keep separate kits. So one case for stuff that is just pure work, that's it. Get in, get out, get the job done. And the other one's the one for play. And in the play one, I've got a little notepad in there as well, and I'll try and write down everything that people say after it if I can get a chance. Just again, it helps kind of make the magic better. But I started doing that to try and get out of the rut of just doing the heavy hitters. I think that's why a lot of magicians get really complacent and bored with magic, because they're just doing the same shit day in, day out. It's like musicians, they hate doing their hits.
Yeah, it's true. Very true.
You're just doing it over and over and over. So you've got to mix stuff up. The reason you started enjoying doing magic is because you couldn't believe that fucking fooled someone, and it was a risk of you doing it. So you've got to keep doing stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable. You keep the sort of the bite and the passion there for it, I find. Definitely. So if I've not got my little leather case with me, if it's a little sort of nylon looking one, you know I'm out testing stuff.
It is a situation of like autopilot you can get into when you start doing things. Like I've got like a ring routine that I do as like an introduction thing, and I've started noticing that I was just like on autopilot when I was doing it. So I've intentionally started like breaking what I say, because it wasn't scripted. It's just I just end up saying the same thing every time. So I've now forcing myself not to say those words just so that I don't go on autopilot and switch off, because I'm like, I know what I'm doing.
Anyone that works in a call center will have a story, or anyone who's worked in a call center for a certain amount of time will have a story where someone's asked them if they're still speaking to the automated service. And it's purely because you'll have a set script that your brain just starts saying as soon as you get someone on the phone to get to the point where you need to be. And at some point, you're going to start sounding robotic. It's unfortunately the way humans are. And when you're performing, it happens as well. It's why if a magician starts doing like a tour, like let's say Darren Brown was doing a tour, or David Copperfield was doing a new tour, I like to try and get a ticket right at the start of it. At that point, because the show's still kind of new to them. And there might be some stuff that doesn't go quite right because it's not ironed out yet, but you're still getting a more authentic experience than someone just running through the motions.
So I always make sure like I have something new even in my stage show, because I'm like, I get bored myself. Like I get bored very quickly. Then even like when I'm performing casually as well, you can find sometimes when you're trying something new, you're like more yourself, and like you're just talking with the person, and then you go into one of your heavy hitters and it's like, oh, I've gone into magician mode. Stop that. Switch off, become a human again. Stop doing that. It just happens. Like,
the reason you sound more genuine when you're doing new stuff is because you have to think about what you're saying. You need to put thought into it. You've not really done it before. You need to figure out what you've got to say and how to link it all together. Once the old heavy hitters just come out, like Ambitious Card, I've taken that out my set now completely. Like, there's times where I'll catch myself going to perform it just because it's a natural.
Yeah.
Stop myself on the spot. If I'm performing for someone, I say, no, in fact, you know what? Let me show you something better than that. This trick isn't good enough for you. Then I move into something else. But I'm trying to. That sponge balls, I've got rid of those. Those used to be one of those routines that you would think I did, but adults love it, so I do it. I'm now getting rid of that because I just became too complacent with it. So I'm trying to shake up everything I'm doing just now a little bit.
I've changed my in my ambitious card. I've changed. It's like it was a 4-phase ambitious, and now I've changed it. So I changed the 3rd phase completely, and the 4th phase I got rid of and made it. I did a second trick afterwards with 2 spectators, so that's now my 4th phase type thing, and it's just to keep myself going because I was like, I know this too well. I need to
So you took your 4-phase ambitious card and made it another 4-phase ambitious card.
Well, if the last phase is no longer ambitious card, it's not an ambitious card routine. It's like it flows into another routine.
No, it's a 12-phase ambitious card.
Yeah, which does end up with a card appearing on the top of the deck, but for a different reason.
I kid you not, I went to a gig in Glasgow as a punter. This must have been about 2 years back, and this guy done like a 12-phase ambitious card. And his patter and his whole scripting and his leading in was literally, yeah, you put it in the middle, goes back to the top. Yeah, you put it in the middle, comes back to the top. Yeah, you put it in the middle, comes back to the top. And by the end of it, I was, I stood around because I knew the guy was trying, but there's 2 people I was with who just walked off, just straight up left. And I'm like, oh, this is rough. Obviously, I won't mention the guy's name, but yeah. So you've got to shake stuff up now and again. Oh yeah, I'll let you know who it was after.
I think it's one of those things as well that if you're doing, like Omni Deck, and if you're doing these tricks, we all do and we've all done. I think people, if they've seen a magician before, they just presume that the deck of cards is going to turn into a block of glass. I remember you were saying that before, Dave. You were like, the guy was like, "Oh, is the deck going to be glass at the end or whatever?" And you're like, "No."
It's like I don't do that trick.
And they're just putting the Omni Deck back in your back pocket, But there's a lot of that, and then there's people that use them as heavy hitters, and they're not. They are good tricks, but they're not. If you think outside the box, there's a lot better effects out there.
I started switching up my Omni Deck, and I make it so I can give it away.
Good. Nice.
So what this will show you how geek I am. I've actually got these set up right here. So one of them is.
Oh, that's nice.
Cool.
The other one I've got sitting here is just a full 40 card in there. But I try and make it something that I can give away. So I've got a little mold and I make these up. And I like Omni Deck as a trick. It's a good trick.
Great
I wouldn't say it's a hard hitting trick. And I think the thing that makes it not hard hitting is you got to go, oh yeah, I'll take that little weird looking glass block back now. Thank you. And you leave. If you want it to be a great trick and make it seem like it was something done off the cuff just for them, give them the thing, let them have it.
It's like cube and bottle, where people are giving away cubes and bottles now. If you didn't give the cube and bottle away, don't do the trick. Do something else. Just give it away. It's worth it. If you're getting paid enough for the gig, it's worth giving away stuff.
Mm-hmm. And see, to be honest, if you go by, there's a sauce brand in Tesco's, which the bottle you get for that is a little cube bottle. It's like a sort of chowder. It's perfect for putting a standard cube in, and it takes you 10 minutes to put a cube in a bottle. It's not hard. So, I mean, for the sake of £5, add £5 onto your fee and just give that thing away. Like these things, these cost, I think it ends up in about £3 to make. It's £3, man. Just give it away.
It's worth it because it's like people aren't expecting it. Like I even found I did a Angle Z, and they were like, "Oh, there you go. You probably want that back." And I was like, "It's a torn card and a corner. Keep it. Like I don't need it. I don't need this on my deck."
Bill changes. Oh, you're going to get a rant. I'll try not to rant too hard. Bill changes are my pet fucking peeve. If you're going to borrow a bill from someone and make it go up in value, give them it.
Yeah.
If you're going to lose $10 or $20, just give them the fucking money. You're only losing half of that anyway because you're doubling it most of the time. If you go from 10 to 20, just give them the fucking money. Say, no, it's yours, and walk away. take the hit.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
The only other way to do it,
they
would
know
be
you've
to
just
do-
switched it in your hand somehow.
Yeah.
People aren't stupid. So give them the damn thing.
switching
Sorry,
it up
I'm
helped
holding
that
back.
as well. Like,
And then he's going to show us now a big stack of bills that he was making yesterday, and you're going to get fucked by the
some
bank.
fake currency.
Well, I didn't want to be like an asshole or anything, but
Definitely big stuff.
this room is just full of shit. By the way, I'll get weird props everywhere.
A way of switching that up as well is like borrow a 20, turn it into like a 5, and then be like, oh, you want this back, and then hand them the 5, and be like, oh, and now then you turn it back into their 20 and give it back to them, and it makes more like you've demoted it and then remoted it.
Yep,
so
there you go.
They end up with the thing is like as a way of
and it adds an extra phase onto what you're doing.
Yeah.
But these people that put it up and then put it back down and go, and then no amount of cheeky charm that you've got is going to make that seem okay to that person.
Yeah.
You're just going to be a schmuck every single time. Like, I won't lie, anytime I'm doing the bill change, I always go from 5 up to 20, and I let them keep the 20. Like, just have it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not doing it at every fucking table, but I factored that price into my cost for the night. So, I mean, it's really not costing me anything.
Yeah, it's a good concept. And a lot of people try to do that, especially if you've got giveaways or you've got some kind of thing, or everyone's going to get a deck of cards at the end of the night or something. Just factor it into the cost, because they if it's a corporate event, they don't know either way. So it's just a nice giveaway then for everyone.
A stupid one that I love doing, and I've got a box of the fucking things. I just found them on Amazon. It's playing card sized. Some over there. I can't be asking up to get it, but it's just they're cards, just playing card, but they're the size of a playing card and just white. So it's not like playing card stock, it's just card stock, but it's the shape and size of a playing card, and it's just a double blank deck. Use that at a wedding. Have a person take out any card and have them write a message to the bride and groom on it. Do the trick with it.
Yeah.
Say thank you, goodbye, and go around all the tables. Then at the end of it, when you're doing your bride and groom, you do your little set for them, you give them the giveaway, then you give them this one extra little thing, which is like a little deck with your business card printed or your details printed on the front of the box, and say, I've been using this to do magic for everyone all around and letting them make up their own cards and write a little message to you guys. So in a couple of days, when everything's all died down and you're having a little bit of time to chill, go through the messages, let's see what your friends are saying. And it's a nice little thing for them to do later on. It's a stupid thing, but and those little decks are 70p a go.
Yeah.
It's idiocy, but it's idiocy, but for like a wedding or something like that, it makes them think you've thought about them.
I always give away the deck, and some people do write messages and stuff anyway because it's kind of a thing. But I always give away the deck. I had them made, and you never want it anyway because it's only got like 40 cards left or less. But they want it, and it came from a groom asking, could he have the cards? And I was like, yeah, of course. And then I didn't even think, why wouldn't he want the cards? All his friends have signed them and all that kind of stuff. And it was just,
So somebody mentioned on the podcast as well, something, I can't remember who said it, but it was like something you could do around like getting drinks. But like a routine you could do with someone is like get them to write down their favorite drink, peek it, hand it back to them, and then like struggle to get it. And then be like, actually, and this is like at the end of the night when you're leaving, walk to the bar, order them the drink and have it delivered. So you're gone, and next thing their favorite drink is planted down in front of them. Just don't use a peek wallet because you walked away with the cards. So make sure it's a peek that they end up back with like it folded up in their pocket or something. So they don't think you just read it. But like that's a strong piece of like you're gone and the magic's still happening. And it's like it's you buying them something.
Yeah.
Sponge balls was my things for that with kids. And I used to make parents panic a little bit before I explained everything after it. So it's a basic sponge ball routine. And again, when I bring up sponge balls, people don't believe I actually do it just because of the sort of image I've got, unfortunately. But it's for kids. It used to be just for kids magic I would do it, but I found adults like them more. But if there's a kid at a party, I'll have a couple there and I will do it. And at the very end, where they all multiply, I'll say, in fact, here, do me a little favor, take this one. And I say, this, what did you call this one? Was it Bob? Yeah, here. You take him, put him in your pocket. And when you go home tonight, in fact, what night are we on? Wednesday? It won't work on a Wednesday. You have to do it on a Saturday. So on Saturday night, put it under your pillow. And then when you wake up in the morning, he might multiply. It'll only happen once. So just make sure you do it on Saturday. Make sure you put them in there before 4 p.m. And then just see what happens in the morning. And you can see the parent kind of going, The fuck are you doing, dickhead? I don't have those just lying about the house. But when like the kid starts running off and they've got this little ball, give the parent a couple of them. So there you go. Just when they go to sleep on Saturday night, and if they stick that thing under there, when they go to sleep, just like Tooth Fairy, jam one in there. It'll just make them happy in the morning. And it keeps the magic going for the kid, keeps the parent happy, keeps the kid amused for a little bit. And then that Saturday morning, that kid will be running about with a fucking little sponge ball again and not bothering their parents again. So, I mean, it's one of those no-brainers, and for how cheap sponge balls are, and for anyone listening, if you don't know, sponge balls weren't designed for magic. They were designed by the gas trade to clean out the pipes. You could buy a big bag of these things for £3, like a huge bag. Like, I'm talking the size of me, because they usually just shoot them down these pipes and then trash them, just to make sure the insides are all clean. That's what they were originally designed for. Buy a bunch of them and just give them away to kids.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a great idea, like, to have the magic continue after you, because I think that's like, it's such an interesting way to do it, because that's what like the impossible object is. An impossible object is the magic is there, while like you can do things like that with the sponge ball or something else, where it's like the magic is still happening even though you've left. Like, if people remember that.
I've seen a few people doing books on stuff kind of like this, like how to get more weddings or what to do at weddings and that kind of stuff. I don't think I've seen anyone write a book on like these kind of weird tips. Someone needs to go around and collect all these little weird tips and like that stupid sponge ball things, or like these sort of weird giveaways you can do and that kind of stuff, and have a book just full of it. Like, not full routines, just ideas of, here's a way you can keep the magic going and people talking about you after you left. Here's another one, and just have like a book of them. Someone needs to capitalize on it.
I have a funny kind of a go-to one like that as well, especially if I meet a friend with their kid or something, and they're like, oh, Steve's the magician, he's going to do a trick for you or something, and I'll produce a coin, and I'll vanish it a few times, and I'll produce it again. And then I say, now this is a magic coin. If you put it underneath your pillow like that, it'll multiply. It'll turn into a 5. You know. So if I'm like the tooth fairy, but I'm better dressed or whatever. I make some kind of joke. I did it only recently. We were at a tattoo convention, and a friend of mine, he's a tattoo artist, and his kid was with him, and it was the same thing. And I was like, you can see you can see the parents, because like now when it becomes a 5, you fold it back up again, nice and neat, put it back under your pillow, and the next night it'll be a tenner, and you can see them kind of going. Fucking stop now, stop, and then I'll keep going to like I've gone up to about 50, but you like, how much do you love your kid? You're gonna disappoint your kid, you're gonna have to give them that 50.
It's why
I love doing it.
It's why with the little sponge ball one, I always word it as, it'll only happen once, and you have to make sure you put it in at this time, like just after 4 p.m. is where you have to put it under there and leave it there till you wake up the next morning. Just to preempt that, because I don't want that kid going the next morning going,
yeah. I know, I like it, but it's one of those things that they'll never ask you to do a trick for their kid again.
That's great for a heckler.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've used it loads of times for that, and I like that kind of sponge ball idea too, on the basis of like, what is a sponge ball? So now you're leaving this kind of, it's going to multiply when you're not looking. It's got a kind of a Gremlins feel. That's a cool concept, man.
In the routine, I call them dust bunnies.
Okay.
It's like, do you know what this is? It's a ball. No, it's a dust bunny. Have you ever seen one before? So if they're under the bed, they're usually small and grey, but if they get big enough and they grow big enough, this is what happens to them. Then I'll let them, you multiply it, and then you let them name each one. And then it's a weird, stupid, it makes no sense. It's like the whole David Williamson theory. Your story doesn't have to make sense. It just have to get you from here to there. That's it.
Yeah.
True.
And the more stupid the story is, people tend to pay attention to the magic more for some reason. I've figured out. Now, I've got some things I do where I'm serious about what I'm saying. Like if I'm doing a gambling demonstration or something like that, I'm relatively serious about it. But if I'm doing my Torn Restore card, I say, right, so we need a victim here. So you have them select a victim. Go, now what's going to happen is they're going to get attacked by a llama. And I go, what? Oh, yeah, do you know what a llama does when it attacks a playing card? No, you just tear it in half. I go, but llamas aren't that easy. Llamas go hard on it. And, like the whole thing, I get through at the end, it's all tore up and say, but when my llama tears you up, llamas spit. Everyone knows that. Anyone that's seen Aladdin knows it. So you can use the spit to stick it back together, and then you use that whole thing. The fucking story makes no sense. Kids find it funny because you're talking about a fucking llama. Adults find it funny because most adults remember the whole "watch out the spit" line from Aladdin for some reason. And that kind of ties in. So just stupid story, but it works. So Williamson was spot on with that. The crazier the story, as long as it gets you, as long as the story has a beginning, a middle, and end, they'll put up with it as long as it kind of vaguely ties in with what you're doing.
It's true.
It works as well, like because a lot of times when you would approach a group at a gig or something, people think that like, oh, he's the magician, so he's probably going to be very serious and like take himself very serious. And as soon as you can like undercut that to be like, I'm just here to have a laugh as much as you are, people tend to like open up a bit more and be like, oh, he's not like, I'm Mr. Mystical here. He's like, he's talking about a llama or like whatever it is you do. They feel like, oh, this is just entertainment. It's not some weirdo who's trying to do like convince us he has magical powers to prepare turn stuff.
I used to use a clown nose for that. I kid you not, I just keep it in my little pocket, and I went and bought a nice clown nose that you would put in some hot water and form it to your nose so it sits right and everything. And I'd walk up with a suit and tie on, looking all nice at the table and say, how you doing, folks? My name's Alan. I'm part of the entertainment for the night. I'm a magician. Don't worry, I'm not like a clown or anything like that. It'll be some elegant, nice magic. Would you like to see a little bit of magic? And as soon as one person says yes, I'll go, yep. I'll take out the clown nose and put it on. Just so there's a little sort of tension break. Like a little, oh, right, so he's not going to be that serious. And then you can get into it and be a bit more sort of cheeky and cocky with him. Yeah. But I think that was a Magic Ballet idea. He's the king of that kind of stuff, mind you. He's got some beautiful stuff. Like just sort of funny tension breakers, and I think it's what a lot of magicians are missing just now. I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of magicians aren't doing too well on like the Got Talents and that kind of stuff just now as well. Everyone's trying to go for too much of a serious.
Yeah, just have fun, like it's fun. Yeah. It's meant to be entertainment. I always open with like approach group and go like, oh hey, I'm David. I'm the magician, and I'm going to show you why my friends don't play cards with me. It's either this skill or my personality, and we'll have a vote at the end of which one it is. And it's just like, I've literally undercut myself immediately. And it's like, people, it gets a laugh, and then you're into it, like, you go into any sort of routine from there.
One of my favourite opening lines, and you kind of need to pick your table wisely, is just walk on and go, how are you guys doing? My name's Alan, I'm the stripper for this evening for you guys. And I just stand and wait for a second. Because they're going to look at me and go, he's not a fucking stripper, look at him, Jesus Christ. He's like 5'5", fat and ugly. Come on, guy. And then you go, of course I'm not. I'm the magician. And then I just move into a trick. But again, it's just the joke, tension, break. And then using like little bits like that, I've discovered I rarely get a table that will say no now.
Yeah.
Even if you get someone that doesn't quite like or doesn't think they like magic, you've broke the tension already because they know you're not going to be one of these preposterous little pricks just trying to show them up, if that makes sense, and you don't mind having a laugh at yourself. So I rarely have people that will say no now. Don't get me wrong, it still does happen, but it's few and far between.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you're going to mix, if you're mixing your magic and you're engaging and it's entertainment value as well, and then you're obviously able to kind of dip and weave in what you're going to do, and you're going to be kind of impromptu in that sense, then they will gravitate more to that, even if it is just a deck vanish and then you palm it back out of their pocket or whatever. You're letting down all the ideas of what they think a magician is, and you're knocking it on its head.
That's it. And people are too scared to do it just now. I don't know why.
It's great on stage as well, like, because you have to do that, because a lot of time when you walk out on stage, people are like, oh my god, this guy really takes himself seriously. He's on a stage. So it's like being able to like undercut yourself there as well is something that's very important.
I for the parlor acts, like semi-stage, I went and bought the world's most dangerous card trick, the card from Animal Trap. I perform it as the card from Animal Trap now, but I initially bought it just again as a tension breaker. So I would go through the whole rigmarole. I'll get there and I'll be discussing how dangerous this thing is, and as I put my hand down like that to discuss it, it would just go and smack in my hand, and I'll just stand there for a couple of minutes in pain and holding it and that kind of stuff. And then move into a different trick. And it was just a way to let people kind of know we're here to have a bit of fun and nothing was too serious. But a lot of magicians are just trying to do the whole, it's either I'm a super serious mind reader who knows your every thought, or I'm a super serious gambler just now. I've noticed it's the two trends in magic.
I'm a super unserious mind reader.
Dude, once we get out of that whole super serious sort of clique that's going about, the better, dude. It's destroying the art a little bit, I think. People are too scared to have fun anymore.
I try to get as many like laughs in my show. Like my show is called Am I Psychic? And all the staging and everything. It's a public show that I did one last weekend or the weekend before last. big thing, like the big theater stuff, and like everything looks serious until you get there, and then like I walk out on stage and go, I'm going to tell you about my favorite psychic, and just start talking about Charles Xavier from the X-Men, just to like completely make it like I'm not taking this seriously, because I built it up for ages, and then I go, you might know him. I just start talking about this psychic called Charles, and then I go like, it's Charles Xavier, and then like I get everybody. I'm going to influence everybody with just the words they say. Can everybody stand up? Everybody stands up, and I just go, ta-da. Just, like, just completely undercut everything like right away, and like make people know that like I'm not standing here to be like I'm going to be deep and dark and mysterious, because even people like Luke Jermay, who everybody sees that in, he's got those bits where he goes like glitter and like all those like little bits that he adds into his show that just work.
Oh, the paw palm, that was my favourite thing I've seen Luke do. It was at one Blackpool convention. He had one of the bigger lectures, and he said, "Look, I'll tell you what's going to happen here. I want everyone to come out, and like I want some people standing and clapping, and I want just everyone taking a picture of this. It's going to do nothing, but I just want people to see, like, share it on your Instagrams and everything, and just put hashtag paw palm. It's like there's no trick here. There's no nothing here. I just want people to look at this and go, what the fuck is that? And what he had done is he'd just taken like a slide of a cat on the screen. It's just a cat palming a little card. And that was it. And just you've got people up standing and cheering and everything. And people were sharing this about, and they're going, so what the fuck was this paw palm thing? And everyone's like, oh, we can't tell you. You should have been there. It's amazing. It was nothing, but
yeah. There's that one.
He's got a wicked sense of humour that way.
Who was the guy at the convention in Ireland who did the standing ovation gag? That was just, I can't remember who it was.
He's a performer, but he's more of a dealer.
But he did a bit, and it's like I've done it in comedy clubs since. He did it at his lecture. But you get everybody up and he's like, everybody put your hands out as if you're going to do the twist thing. Put your hands out and like imagine this like positive ball of energy between you. That's making you happy. And then you're on stage and everybody in the audience is like this. You should get your phone, take a photo, and be like, thanks for the standing ovation. Needed that for social media, and just put it away. And if you actually look at the photos, it's everybody being like,
oh, that's amazing.
It just looks like
that is amazing.
That was even better, Dave, because the screen just froze when you did that. So you were literally
yeah, just I timed that perfectly to give you the actual idea of what it looks like. But it's those sort of things that just get. I hate doing comedy clubs, because I've done comedy clubs quite a bit. Help with that sort of stuff, because you can't take yourself too seriously there, or you'll be ripped apart.
Yeah, so I'm doing my sort of comedy parlor act on Saturday night. It's like it's called Entertainment. It's a comedy, burlesque, and magic night that one of my buddies puts on in Glasgow. And it's like people do the same kind of things in that, and I always like it just to see everyone's little in to win the crowd over. That's the interesting point to me. Like, what did you use to get the crowd to like you? The thing I've discovered for that kind of crowd is my opening line when I walk on stage, and it is, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, or however you may want to. I need to figure out how I'm going to word that part, because we need to be a bit more open for that, which I get. It's fair. So I need to figure out a better way to word that. I might just say tonight, folks, to be honest now. Yeah. But just tonight, folks, I'm going to show you my favourite act. And it is the act that my wife has stated she's going to divorce me if I ever performed it again. So this might be the last time you see me as a married man. And everyone just kind of at that point kind of leans in and goes, what the fuck is he going to do? And it's just all the dangerous stuff that I do. But the animal trap is in there as well. And there's always a little callback in it, because I take my wedding ring off just before I put my hand into the thing. So once you take that off, you can see all the women kind of going, oh. Like, the wife doesn't care about the danger. She cares about me taking off the ring. It's like she's at home right now. She's got a sixth sense. She's kind of just perked up like a prairie dog, knowing I've taken that ring off. Yeah. It always gets a little laugh when you're kind of in those kind of venues, but it's the only venue I've found where it kind of works, like those types of gigs. So I'm still trying to work on a way to make it play on a sort of bigger stage where you're a bit further away from everyone, you get less interaction. I'll get there eventually.
I always do that line, like I do the like ring thing routine and like pull it through the finger and all that sort of stuff. And then I go, I better put it back on, because at this moment there are alarms going off at home, because my wife knows I took off my wedding ring and that sort of stuff. I think that works well. And I always had a gag that I used to do at a comedy clubs where I say, I was originally going to make my wife levitate here, but she couldn't show up, so I'm going to teach everyone how to do it. I was like, do you want to learn how to make your wife float? And everyone's like, yeah, cool. And like, perfect. I'm going to teach you how to do it.
No, yeah.
First, get a really good job. Then get a girlfriend and move in together. Then get married. Then one day come home and tell your wife that you're quitting your job to be a full-time magician. I'm telling you, she hit the fucking roof. It was about that high off the ground. And it just like immediately gets so bad. And it's like, it was like my opening line at comedy clubs always. Because it's like, it's an actual structured joke. But at the same time, it's like, cuts the tension.
And it's a true story.
Yeah, it's true story.
Dude, I can't even claim that. But when I met my wife, I was already a gigging performing magician, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she stuck around, to be fair.
It is kind of true though what you're saying about performers trying to have more fun with it, because like if you look at the older guys like Paul Daniels and even Copperfield and all this kind of stuff, there's loads of injection of comedy and fun and entertainment value as well. They're going to fool the living shit out of you. You're not going to know how it's done, but you're also going to enjoy the whole process. If I would prefer that kind of performer any day over this guy who's just fooling me and just looks like a smarmy prick.
Oh, I'm going to say an unpopular opinion right now, and I know I am, so I'll probably get some boos for this. But it's the YouTube and TikTok thing. I'm totally not against performing on TikTok and all that kind of shit. I'm fine with it. But what I've noticed is there's a lot of young magicians coming up that just perform on it, and then when you put them in front of a real audience, they kind of don't know what to do, and it's really weird. So by all means, do all that stuff, but go out and meet people and do magic for them and figure out what you've got to do to make that person tick and get into it and that kind of thing. That's the fun part of it. I think a lot of these sort of ones coming up need to kind of keep that in mind as well, and they're just kind of letting it go because they're getting TikTok views, unfortunately. And again, not against that whole kind of stuff. Go for it. It's a market. It's just a different way to perform. Feel free. But
it's the thing, if you get big on TikTok, they want you to do a tour. It's the way it always goes. Or they want you to do like, let's go on this talk show and perform for someone. And it's like, it's a different genre. It's like getting like a close-up performer who's really good at tables and being like, oh, can you do a stage show there tomorrow night? It's like, no, I can't. I'm a close-up performer. Like, that's not what I do. Or like you get a really good stage illusionist and be like, oh, can you do my drinks reception there and just do some close-up? Like, no, I do the show for tigers.
It's not even just the what you can perform thing I've noticed. It's even the just talking and interacting with people. Like there was, again, I won't mention names here. I'll say to you guys afterwards, but I'm not going to out the poor guy live. But he's fairly big on TikTok, and we were sitting just batting about some ideas in this bar. This was in Vegas, and a guy came out, like, "Oh, you're a magician." Like, yep. So I've done a little bit for him. Another guy done a little bit for him. The guy was enjoying it. And then this TikTok kid went up, started to try and do some magic for him, and you could see the mood instantly change in the guy. Just because before we had brought him in, he was just a friend who we were showing magic to, and we could talk to him like a human. And this other kid was just like, look here, card, goes here. Oh, it's back. Oh, card, wallet, done. Then just waiting. Like there was no other input. And when that kid went to the toilet, I was like, so is he the new, this is the punter, it says, like, is he like the new guy? He's like, no, he's pretty big. I was like, fuck me, he's a bit dry, isn't he? And I went, no, unfortunately. So it's just unfortunately the way some of that generation is now, and I'm noticing it more and more. And I think it is because they just perform to a lens. They don't actually.
There's no engagement as people rather than with. Yeah, it's like it's performing with people is the way it is. Like you don't perform at people. It's like it's collaborative experience. That's what it should feel like anyway.
The annoying thing is the kid had chops. Like he was fucking good. Like magic wise, technically wise, fucking tremendous. He just couldn't talk to people. And it's one of those weird things that I think a lot of people, and not even just magic, like in any sort of performance art, need to kind of focus on a bit more. Because if you're going to want someone to engage in what you're doing, you need to be engaging for them to focus in. Yeah. Most people don't do it now, unfortunately.
It reminds me of like
a wee mini rant.
when I was a teenager, I was being like taught magic by another magician, and I was like practicing in front of the mirror, feeling good. Maybe my parents. That was about it. And then actually, one of the things he'd give me challenges every week, and one of them was to go perform for a stranger. It scared the living shit out of me, and I was like 15, and I was a shy kid anyway. And I was like, oh my god, perform for like a stranger, but it's like the best thing I ever did because I could have quite like if TikTok or that sort of stuff was around the time, I would have just been like, oh, I just perform on TikTok all the time. And I wouldn't actually have to like break magic's for shy kids. Like that's what it is. It's always been. So it's like you have to interact with people to get out of that.
When I first started like getting into performing properly, I still get nerves now. Like before every show, I'll feel like I want to be sick. Doesn't matter if it's 10 people, 100 or 3,000. It doesn't matter. As soon as I get on, I'll get going and I'm fine. But I'll always get the nerves. If I don't get that, there's a problem. But in the beginning, to try and start getting over that, one of the guys that kind of was mentoring me a little bit made me go do magic for strangers in the sort of same way. But the wand I was allowed to use was a fucking dildo. That was it. And all he wanted was for me to get the embarrassment out of the way. And it instantly does it. And then I think that was one of the first points where I realised this is a funny prop. People are going to laugh at this and then people are going to engage a bit more. So at one point, you just turn to somebody like, can you help? If you hold my wand, wand's the word I was going for there. You hold that for me and then you just move into what you're doing. And it's amazing what fucking lines you can come up with using a fucking dildo as a wand, to be honest. But he was right. It got me out of the embarrassed stage, because I think that's the main part that got me to begin with. What happens if something goes wrong, or if they don't see something the way I want them to see it? And if you're walking up with a fucking dildo to use as the wand, you quickly realise they don't care.
Shit's gone wrong already.
Yeah. It can't get worse.
They don't care. It's anything from the dildo is up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kid you not, he'd done that to me a few times. We used to sort of bet each other with stuff like that. I don't know if I should tell that. Oh fuck it, I'll tell it. So we used to play with bar bets, and there used to be a bet that we would do. It was like the light and heavy thing, and you would say to someone, see if you take a little bit of a pint and pour it on top of a bar, as long as it's well varnished. If you put both your hands on top, like you won't be able to lift them up. And the bar bet was they would put their hands down on top of this, and they would think the moisture would create like a suction. It wasn't the case. They would put their hands down, you just put a pint on top of each so they can't fucking move. It's an old gag.
Yeah.
So he was aware of it, and I thought, I'm going to be a fucking dick here. And it's a bar in Edinburgh. And I walked out, I was like, oh, have you seen the new version of this? And he came up and I was like, a little bit of moisture here, put your hand on top. And I was like, put the pint on. I was like, you've got to wait for a second. The idiot didn't know I super glued his hand to the bar. the moisture wasn't beer, it was straight up super glue. This was before I knew that super glue was designed to bond skin. That's what it was designed for. So he was there for a bit. And then we had to pay to have that whole bar surface refinished. 200 quid well spent, to be honest. Yeah, we would do stuff like that with each other all the time. And it was just to get us out of our comfort zones. That was all it's for. A lot of people don't do it now, and I think more people need to start looking at it again. Like, even just go up to a fucking neighbour, someone at a bus stop, do a trick for them. Like, make a point of trying to do a trick to a stranger per day if you can, if you're out and about.
Post-pandemic as well is a massive thing with all the lockdowns. Because I remember I was out with my family at like a dinner thing because my sister was moving, and there was like a group at a table, and they were like, seems to be having fun. So I was performing magic for my family, and they're like, oh, I bet you wouldn't go perform for them. And I was like, actually, this is like the perfect time. I haven't performed for a stranger in 2 years that wasn't on Zoom. So yeah, I'm going to go perform for them now. And just like got back into my thing. And like, it was like that, you did have that nerves a bit of the uncomfortability because it's been so long since I'd done anything close up. So it was great. It was like, I started doing that then for like, before my first gig back, was just like approaching people in bars or in coffee shops and stuff, just to try and get the,
during the pandemic, I got full-blown agoraphobia. Like, I didn't want to go out. Like, straight up, didn't want to go out, didn't want to be around people. And it took a little bit after going, you know what, fuck it, let's just go sit in a bar. And it was just to build myself up to being around people again. And then it got to a point, I think it was the end of the first night, I was like, fuck it. And just started just doing the tables in this place. Like, they hadn't hired me, I wasn't asking for tips. It was just to get myself back in the groove of it. Thankfully, it's got me a few gigs from that bar now, moving forward. So I've got a residency there now, so I can't complain. But yeah, since the pandemic, I had to go and do a little bit of work in that stuff as well, because I got a little bit, not just rusty, but I just didn't like being around people, and I had to relearn how to interact with people again a little bit and let my brain know it was okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I had a bit of like the Germophobia. Like, even having someone pick a card and have them give it back to me was like, oh god, no. I don't wanna, like, this is a deck of cards is a transmission device now, and then after a while you just go like, screw it, let's just carry on again.
On my first gig back, I get midway through doing card from mouth before I suddenly realised, oh fuck, this may not be the right thing to be doing here. And then as soon as like I slid that thing out, my brain was going, this isn't the right thing. The punter just went, oh fuck, and grabbed it, and I went, no one cares.
100%.
Yeah.
We're at that
thing.
point where everyone's just happy about it, no one cares anymore.
Yeah.
So just make sure your COVID tests are up to date, folks. But yeah, no one gives a fuck anymore. Who cares?
I did my top pocket 2 times, but I had stuff in there and it fell once instead of going to the mouth. I was like, screw it, I'm just going to do the mouth, but like barely, like it was like touching my lip rather than like being in there. So we're just like there. And I was like, I'll see now what this group is, because there's young people and stuff. So I was like, it's better to like mess up with these people and they're like, ew, than someone else. And then nobody cared. And then at another table, a group, I handed a Sharpie, and one had her foot, and she went to bite the cap off. And then her friends were like, no! And she was like, oh shit, I forgot.
I got to a point, it was the third gig in, where I was like, I don't care anymore. Because I've already had COVID. So this is a good story again. So again, I went to Vegas in January for the Sam's conventions. I went there for the All Things Magic team. And during the whole time there, I was kind of vigilant. I wore my mask every day, done everything the way it should be. Tried to be around. If I had to be in a group of people, I had to be. Just it is what it is. It's a convention. But if I didn't have to be, I tried to keep out the way. The very last night, we all had just a bit of a fucking jam. It was like just like Luke Dancy, Magic Blay, Smoothini, and just a bunch of us all just getting drunk and having a good night. The only night where I had the mask off for most of the night, got fucking COVID. It's the time I fucking got COVID, wasn't it? But I've survived it now. It was rough for like 2 days, like with like a cold, and then I just couldn't stay awake for like 4 weeks. Like if I got up, went to the bathroom, and came back, I had to sleep for 4 hours. I was fucked. I was that for 4 weeks, and then since been absolutely fine. And one of the weird things is my asthma. I was pretty bad with asthma before COVID. I rarely need to use my inhalers now. So I think of one of the very select few success stories from fucking COVID.
You were like, God, that pandemic was a fucking great time.
Yeah, dude. Did you see the shit I got online during it?
No.
About
right.
No, I don't.
So I posted a trick.
Okay.
It was a stupid little video of a trick. In fact, I'll show you the gimmick in a minute. But it was negative, positive, negative lateral flow test. If people weren't happy, like, you shouldn't be making light of this, it's killing people and blah 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 blah. But I was like, it's a fucking trick. In fact, give me a minute, I still have the gimmick somewhere. Give me a minute.
I'm just thinking
if anything, he's I suppose trying to lighten it a little bit, because we didn't know what it was when it started, really, did we?
Yeah, sure.
That's true. And don't you insult me, sir, with a fucking paddle move. Dear Lord.
It would be the easiest way to do it.
No, not even.
Okay. Okay, for anyone who's just listening, you need to get onto YouTube and see this.
Yeah, so if I'll tip this for anyone that fucking wants it. Little magnet at the back. That's all it fucking is. But people got really pissy about it for some reason. I was like, it's a stupid trick with a fucking COVID test, for fuck's sake. Like, everyone's already feeling pretty shitty and down. Like, just... Let's just
selling mask tricks everywhere. Like, vanishing your mask and all that. Apparently that's fine. So.
Yeah.
Fucking... Did you see the change mask?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
So somebody put out a change mask, and it was a flap, basically. But the problem you had with it is the right-hand side of your mask went from being fat to the left-hand side. It just didn't look natural at all. But as soon as the pandemic hit, I think there's a couple of us that turned around and said, someone's going to put out a trick with fucking masks. It's going to happen. It has to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the way magicians are. And then I can't even remember what company it was who put out the one you could put into a thumb tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a vanishing one, yeah.
I was like, couldn't you just use a normal one?
Yeah, that's like a normal mask will fit. But yeah, it's dude. I got a massive amount of shit for that. Like, I got death threats for a fucking trick with a COVID test. I was like, Jesus Lord.
Yeah.
Put aside the fact that it's a decent gimmick I've built into that thing. It's not like it's a
somebody else would have sold it.
Yeah,
yeah, you probably could have sold it. Yeah.
I put a bit of fucking time into that piece of shit.
You should turn it into a pregnancy test and just sell that.
Oh no! Oh, again, something you may not know. Before I decided to go full time in magic, I was a midwife.
It'll fit your character perfectly. So, like,
that was my career. The day I got my degree through the door was the day I decided I was going to be a full time magician. But yeah, so the whole pregnancy jokes things. I hate this at April Fools as well. See, like, giving your partner a pregnancy test and go, no, it's a joke. I think it's a bit of a dick move, just because there's poor families out there like trying the hardest. With COVID, you might have a bit of sniffles for a wee bit. You're going to feel a bit shit, but you're going to be all right in the grand scheme of things, really. Let's look at it that way.
Yeah. Especially now that everybody's feeling good and
yeah,
all the injections are going well. So it's one of those things that it's like, it really does show that how quickly magicians have to adapt. Because I think it was like 2 weeks in, the first downloads for Zoom Magic stuff started coming out, because like that was the whole thing.
What pissed me off on that one is you've seen this. I've got my full OBS all set up. I've got my close-up table and my studio all set up. I had all of this done before COVID. I was doing online shows for like BMW and that kind of thing before the pandemic hit. And then once it hit, and I was like showing people that I was still doing Zoom shows and that kind of thing, they're like, you adapted quick. I was like, fucking no, dickhead. I spent years getting this right. And now all you fuckers are just setting them all up. You're taking away my unique selling point here, you pricks.
Not me. I don't do them. I tried to, hated it, stopped.
Okay, I don't mind it. I've still got the setup there for it, but I don't care what anyone says. It does not come close to performing for real people in any which way, shape, or form.
100%.
Yeah. Like, I've never been nervous before a Zoom show. It's that simple. I get nervous before like real proper shows. The reason I'm not nervous in front of a Zoom show is because I have buttons. I control everything. Like, I can, if I don't want them to see something, they're not going to see it.
Yeah, I was speaking to a friend of mine in the States, Tommy Burnett. He's a mentalist, and he was saying that with the Zoom, it's, it was getting very busy over there. But he said what he realized with magicians, especially in New York, I definitely saw it in Ireland as well, is like this like false sense of like ego, like they were the top magician on Zoom, and like that what is that? Like, that's fuck off, because next week when I'm back on stage and you're back on stage and everyone's properly back on stage, that doesn't mean shit, and he saw that too. He was saying that because we're busy doing Zoom, but sure, people, majority of real pros didn't do Zoom. They just waited.
Yep. It's the reason I kept on doing it for myself is because I was doing it beforehand, and I had a contract with a company that needed them. So it was just because it was a gig I had before it. I can't say that I'd done like a COVID Zoom show that one was like, I need money or I need a gig. It was primarily for the gigs I had before it. However, I get that there's a market for it because I made a setup for it because they paid me well for it. But again, it's not the same. It's not. If I'm not in the room and I can't feel the tension of someone wanting to punch my face in because they don't understand how I've done a trick, I don't like it. I need that feedback.
I need applause. I was like, I did a Zoom show and I was like, oh my God, I need applause so much. It just feels weird sitting here in silence.
I think if you were new to magic or you were kind of a bit of a wooden performer anyway.
This isn't applause, by the way.
No, yeah, it's definitely not. I think if you were new to magic and you hadn't done much stage, but I think you couldn't substitute stage to Zoom. But I think if you were new to magic or if you were a different type of magician and it was something different, I think it would work then. But I mean, I just know anyone that was a seasoned performer was just like, fuck this, I'll do a few, but this is not for me.
It was destroying my soul. I won't even make it. No, I won't get a fine now, will I? There's a couple of house parties around our way now. They hired me and I was like, fuck it. This is before the full blown. This is like just after.
As long as they weren't on 10 Downing Street, I'm sure you were grand.
Yeah, I'm good for it. But it was at the point I had realised I didn't like being out and around people, and I was like, I just need to build myself up again to it.
Yeah.
And I stupidly thought at one point, I didn't realize that there'd be so many performers going through the same thing. But it's understandable because that's what we do. We just crave attention. Let's face it, it's why we fucking do it. We're attention whores. It just is what it is. And then having that cut off as quick as it was a little bit of a shock to the system.
Yeah. It was mad. Like, even the ones you were waiting for, 'cause, like, for me, before the lockdown, my last gigs were Valentine's weekend. So it had already been a month, and I had one like the next week. And it was like, I was looking forward to it because I hadn't been out doing stuff for like a month. So I was like, oh yeah. And then I've had like a busy March, April, May with weddings, all gone. And you're just like, no, I was meant to get my attention fixed for the next 3 months to like see me through the last.
What I thought was funny was when we started the podcast, initially, it was just us kind of chatting, and then we started bringing on other magicians and stuff like that and chatting. But every now and again, Dave would be like, I just bought this thing. And I'm like, yeah, but you can't do it ever. Like, like this might never fucking end, like for another whatever.
3 peak wallets during the pandemic.
It's like
3 peak wallets.
Dude, during the pandemic, I put out
so
a
much
Zoom
shit.
force. This routine where you could force anything on a group of people in a Zoom room, and you're basically loading in the sound, right? So if you say to everyone, unmute yourselves, I'm going to need some options here. So I want everyone to shout out a random animal, shout a few, go for it, and have them all shout, and then they'll hear the one that you want. So you could just pick one from the room and go. So it's as if you're picking them randomly from the people, but you're just loading in the sound through a soundboard. And it got to a point, it's like, people will be able to use this just now. I was using it in my show beforehand, but I thought people will be able to use this. So I just wrote the thing up and gave it away for free. It's like, hey, go on my website, just go download it, have fun. And it must have been a good 2 weeks later. It was the typical other magician that had discovered the same thing. He decided to want to make money from it. Tried to have a go at me for it. It's like, well, I just put this out and it's mine and it's da-da-da-da. I was like, well, here's my PDF. You're free to check the dates on it. You can check the creation dates on it and the metadata. Do what you want. It's been out for a little while. People have been downloading it for a while. So I'm going to leave it there just so you know. So you can either be a whore and try and steal money from people when they don't have it just now, or maybe just let them have something that they can fucking use. And this might be the only time on the planet where they're going to be able to use this, because as soon as this pandemic is over, this trick's gone again.
Yeah.
But it's magicians being whores. This is what happens. The industry's filled them.
Yeah. I think the more seasoned professionals that we have on the show, the more we realize that seasoned professionals don't like magicians as a whole. And I'm not saying that just to be a prick. I'm saying that globally. Like, we've had magicians from all over the world at this point, and the majority of magicians don't go to that are like TV magicians or consultants or whatever. They don't go to magic conventions. They don't hang out with working magicians in that sense, because it's not worth the hassle. I mean, I've had tons of it during the pandemic, and my attitude at the end of it was just like, fuck them, I don't care.
Magicians are cunts. This is what it is, unfortunately. There's select few that aren't. There's select few conventions, like the Blackpool convention. I'll go to that if I can. The Sam's one I was just at, I was there because I was hired to be there. If I can, I tend not to hang around with magicians because stuff just goes walkies with them all the time, unfortunately. And then the unfortunate trend I've noticed so far is they'll claim that you've taken something from them, even though they've tried to take something from you. It's weird as shit. So they'll say, like, you stole this from me. And you're like, no, I fucking didn't. And then they'll try and tar you with the same brush, and it's what happens. The industry is just fucked that way. Like, there was just a box switch put out by one of my buddies, and then the very same day it was getting released by one company, another company released the very same fucking thing.
Yeah. It's interesting how things go in flows like that. It's like, it's like coin and bottle. Everybody's got a version. Like, you go to this website, there's a version. There's and it's like, then there was like the time of the smoke device, and like everybody suddenly have a great idea to make.
You can fuck right off.
There's no fucking smoke devices now. You just can't get a good one.
Yeah.
Well, you can.
There's smoke too.
Well, I was consulting on a movie, and the special effects department were like, we need a smoke device in this, and I literally went and I bought them all. Well, they did, thanks to Universal Pictures. But we played around with them all to see like what, and none of them did the job that they wanted. And then I was just like, we ended up having to make one. Yeah, we had to make one. Yeah.
I've got a bunch. See that whole smoke thing when that was all coming out? I was right at the front of that, like right at the very start of it. And I was so much at the start of using like e-cigs and all that kind of shit as like a smoke producer. When that first came out, I had one person say, well, you've taken this idea from me. And I was like, I haven't. It's like, yeah, we were talking about this 2 months ago. I was like, you might have spoken about it, but I've not taken the idea for you. And like, no, you have. I was like, I can guarantee I haven't. And I don't think they'd realised at the time, I was one of the dickheads that had a patent on one of the atomizers that we were using. And it took me like 4 years to get the fucking patent on it. So there was a whole patent paperwork there, everything all available for everyone to see with dates on it. And then I approached a couple of companies with them, going up the sleeve and the pens and all sorts of shit. And just about every company was like, nah, no one will want it. No one will buy it. And then as soon as, I think it was Theory 11, started like pitching the idea and getting out, everyone started doing the ones down the sleeve and just jacking the idea. And just ran off with it. And, well, for something that you said you didn't want a fucking couple of months ago, you're fairly selling it now, you dickheads.
Yeah.
But again,
there was so many of them.
Community.
There was so many of them at one point, and now there's very little, and they're kind of like unheard of now a little bit. People, you either have one that you had from years ago, but there's nothing new and fresh.
People are trying to put them into watches now. The unfortunate thing is the watches just look like no fucking watch you would wear at all. It's like the one I've got is one I've designed for myself, and it fits under a normal watch strap, and it works great. But it's not something I'm ever going to release. It's like I'm even trying to slow down on the actual smoke pens as well. I've now hit a point where I've got going on a 4-year-old kid, and I don't want him growing up and googling, "Oh, Daddy, why are you smoking?"
Yeah.
I don't smoke, and not like just some stuff I'm trying to be mindful of. So I'm trying to let that die down a little bit as well.
It's like the idea of it being in the Sharpie was genius. I have to say, like it's just one of those things that was like the one thing I've had it for a while, but I don't smoke, and now I'm asthmatic as well. So it's like you put the thing in the house, and I'd be like, the next thing is that's just like I look like a dragon with like just smoke coming out of my nose or like just leaking, and I'd be like, damn it! So I'd like be like.
You got to remember,
eventually I got it, but
it's if you're soaking in some liquid into your mouth is the best way to do it.
Yeah, it took so long to get it right because.
But yeah, I'm trying to let that die down now. There's a bunch of tricks I've put out in the past that I'm like, I can't have my kids see that because I'm trying to tell them not to do shit. I'm like, don't play around with sharp objects, but Daddy, here you're throwing your hand into cups here with a spike in it. Fuck.
It's a trick.
My small fella's only 16 months, so I still have a bit of time to do more mad shit. So I'm pretty happy with
that. Lucky son of a bitch. You're at the good age. I'm at the age of where my kid will run into a room and say, "Daddy, I don't love you. Mummy, I love you," then run off.
The fun time.
I have that to look forward to.
His favourite game for a little while was Punch Daddy in the Ding Dong. What he would do is he would like, this is when he was like 2. And he would go, "Daddy," and like scream for you. So you'd walk in and he'd go, he'd have to like pick me up. I'm like, cool. So I put my hands up and go pick him up, and he would just go, boom, and just lamp me. Wow. Right in between the legs. And he'd just giggle as I crumpled and hit the floor. And the bad thing was, if you went into the room and he was going, and you didn't go to pick him up, he would just start crying and act like you didn't love him. So it just guilted you into doing it anyway.
Gaslighting right there.
Yeah, that was his favourite game for a little bit.
It's amazing how like young we find people being hurt is like we find that funny like at such a young age. It's hilarious. Yeah,
I had the TV on the other day and we were watching some series. I don't know what it was, but this guy was like having a nervous breakdown and he got out of his car and just started kicking the shit out of the bonnet and started, I don't know, some TV show. And Michael thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And I was like, this has to be like some this is a fluke. So I went back and I like watched like the scene running up to that scene again, and he was just in his playpen. And he was just playing with his toys, whatever. And then the scene came back on, and up he stood, and he was like, and he just started laughing at the exact same part. So I was like, he's either hilarious and he's got a great, sense of comedy, or he's a psychopath. And we'll find out what happens in about 16 years or so.
I think it's why kids like wrestling as well. They just like to see people getting hurt, but knowing they're okay. Really,
Yeah. I think it is that.
it's kind of that sort of weird. It's the slapstick kind of thing. I think is what it is.
Yeah,
but that's a
very
good thing to
normal
have.
Human thing anyway. That's a normal human attribute.
Yeah. And speaking of people getting hurt and things going badly, I think that's a good time to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, we got a segue and everything there. Almost feels professional. Shit.
That's why I get paid nothing. So with the good, the bad, and the ugly, we asked for a story of like a performance that maybe started out well and went quickly downhill to disastrous effects. Hopefully hilarious for the rest of us and haunt your nightmares. Do you have a story?
Do you want a story of a performance, or do you want a story from when I was consulting, or
anything you want, whatever comes to mind?
I
want a story of both. I want both.
Yeah.
I'll do both. Dude, see, on the consultancy side, I have, as soon as my NDAs are out, I've got books I could write, and it's not on like the magic side of it. It's on just like the stupid shit. Like we nearly set fire to an office one time with flash paper. I'll tell you that one. I'll tell you a few that we can just now. I won't mention any names so no one knows what show it was for, that kind of stuff. But gigging wise, this is a story I've told a few times, but it's still one of my go-tos. So I still do it now and again, but it's a pickpocketing act. And the idea is it was during my stage show, I'll get one person up, I'll do one little trick for them, send them back to their chair, and they didn't know I had stole like their watch. And then I'll get another person up, do another trick for them, that I would get their wallet, and then like at the very end of the whole night, I would say, "Oh, if I've got this box up here," and you pull the box down, say to all the guests that come up, everyone that gave me their valuable time, I've got a gift for you. And I'd open up this box, and it would be like their watch, their wallet, and that kind of thing at the end. So I've already done the first person, and I've got their phone, and that's already loaded to where it needs to be. I've got the second person up. I've got their wallet. Really nice guy. Everything was fine. Sent him back to his chair, and I'm going into the third trick. And I've got this lady up, and she just stands to my right, and I'm standing, and I'm midway through this trick, and she's got her hands out, and I'm going for her watch. So I'm here, and I'm doing the whole thing, and I can't see the audience because of the lights, obviously. And the look of terror on this woman's face, like it changed from like smiling to like just shock and terror, like in a second. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I turn around and look this way, and by the time I get to here, a fist just lamps me right on the side of the face, and I get knocked out cold. Like I was stiff as a board before I hit the ground. Like I was out. Like I had to get curtains closed and woken up out. Turns out the guy got back to his seat and realised his wallet was missing and thought I had just stole it, like just straight up taken it. And he wasn't having it because he had a beer or two in him, so he just marched up onto the stage and just fucking lamped me. Like I had the gnarliest bruise for weeks afterwards. So that's the gig was going great as well. There's video footage this summer. This was in Paisley.
Okay.
Yeah, it was rough. The gig was going great up until that point. Like everything was clicking. People were getting the jokes, the applause, everything was fucking great. It's a fucking 300 people audience as well. Everything was fucking amazing. It was one of the biggest rooms I'd played at the time as well, so I was happy. And then just fucking stopped the show dead. The funny thing is, I'm now really good friends with the guy. I'm like his kid's godfather. So,
I love
like, when that had happened and like the curtains closed and like my buddies ran on, like my buddy was doing the sound, it's like, it's part of the trick. And the guy's like, what? It's like, you get it back at the end, it's part of the trick. And he's like, oh fuck, sorry, I didn't know. And you could, like, there was a realization there, and they made sure I was fine and everything was good. But now when I do the pickpocketing act, when I'm taking the stuff out of the pocket, I load in a little business card that says, don't panic, I have your item, we'll get it back at the end. Just don't do the surprise. And it's just
clever.
Yeah,
you got that cover. I love that he hit you and you were all like, Jesus, man, it's part of the show. And he's like, oh, do you want to be my kid's got
It wasn't a case of I said Jesus, it was part of the show. My buddy said that. At this point when he was saying that, I was out cold.
Yeah, you were out cold.
Don't remember it. The only reason I've pieced together kind of what happens because there's video footage of it somewhere. I'll need to dig it out at some point and send it over. There's video footage of me just getting knocked out cold on stage. And then obviously he was very apologetic afterwards, and it was the next day. It's like he like gave me a little call and was like, "Are you good? I'm so sorry." Blah 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 blah. And we just got chatty. Like we just became friends after it. Thankfully,
Sure.
Steve, he's a real nice guy. Some fucking punch on him, but a real nice guy.
It'd be good to have him in the audience now. If any time a trick isn't going right, you just give him a signal. He comes up and knocks you the fuck out. Just end the show.
Dude, you should have seen the whole side of my face had just went right up, and I thought, I think he's cracked a part of my orbital socket here. I kid you not. And I went and got all the X-rays done and everything. Like that. He hasn't. It's just he's hit you just right, so everything is just swelling like thick. You're just going to have to ride it out. There's nothing broken. Your eye doesn't seem to be in any danger. You'll be all right. But I was bruised and blue for a little bit after that. It was one of the rougher ones.
That's definitely a good, the bad, and the ugly. I think that covers them all.
The good was the show going well. The bad was the getting knocked out, and the ugly was your face after.
Got a black eye from a TV show as well, to be quite honest. That was, I wouldn't say what show it was, but there's been in fact, on 4 separate TV shows where there's been a trick with an ATM, I've been inside the fucking ATM. So there's 2 stories for each, but I'll tell you, I kid you not. On one of the shows, like the ATM was supposed to eat the person's card, and then there was a bit of magic that would happen, and then they would get the card back, hand their money, and blah blah blah. But we got this little fiery Spanish woman who'd walked up to the ATM, put her card in, and I'm inside this fucking thing now. You know the stand-alone ATMs?
Yeah.
There's fucking no room in them. So I'm here. The screen is like here, and it's like this thin fake screen that we've pinned so we can do what we have to do. And the wall's right at the back. And this woman was just having a bad day. So when the machine ate her card, and it was me just taking it and holding on to it, she just punches the screen straight on. But my head's right there. It can't go anywhere. So she just fucking lamped me. So she thinks she's just punched this industrial screen. And she's punched me square in the face.
The ATM says, ow.
This AI has gone really through the roof. Ow!
The thing is, see, the performer still tried to go like camera down and go along with the trick, and I'm like, "Fucking stop, dickhead! I've got a nosebleed in here now. It's like you need to stop." That's happened before. One time I was stolen when I was inside one of those ATMs.
I think this was the term.
This is just in a bad area, and we had this thing. We were setting it up so we could set up the trick, and we were just had high vises on, so we looked like we worked for the company. And a guy walked up and was like, "You don't want to put that there, buddy. We'll steal it." And I went, "Huh?" Then I thought it was a joke, and he went away. Then it was later on. I'm sitting in this thing, getting ready to do action, all the trick for the performer and all that kind of shit. And I've got my comms in my ear. And all of a sudden, I'm on my back. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, I'm moving here. So I hit the comms like, I won't say the person's name, so I won't give away the show. But like, what's going on? It's like, oh, we're just setting up sound, setting up cameras, getting a good show. I was like, no, what's going on? I'm moving. And they go, all you hear over the comms was, oh, fuck. And it cut. And I'm like, that's not good. And it turned out they drove up with a pickup, opened up the back, and a couple of them just lobbed this thing on the back and just drove off. Can you imagine their face when they opened this up and it's just me inside, like, it's like, you ever wondered how one of these worked? But the showrunners got in their van and drove up the side and caught up to the side and went, look, this is a thing for a TV show. There's nothing in it. If you put it back now, there'll be no place, no blah blah blah. And we got it. We got me back. Yeah, straight up. I didn't get kidnapped. I got stolen technically and legally. But I could write a book on these things, man. I'm going to at some point. Just all these little random stories. But there's fucking in consultancy. There's loads of them. During my time consulting, I've broke ribs, broke my knee. We've been able to set an office on fire with flash paper. We had to dry out a bunch of the next day, so we had it just all in this office on the tables, laid out with it. And in the very far corner, there was a little sort of grinding wheel. We were making up some like gimmick coins and rings and that kind of thing. And one of the other consultants was an absolute dick and goes to start working on this other gimmick, and a spark goes over it. Just the whole office just went fucking white. Like like I had no eyebrows or nothing after it. It was rough as all hell. But yeah, stuff like that happens all the fucking time on these shows. You just never hear about it.
Yeah, that's definitely some good, the bad, the ugly.
Some good stuff. That's some grade A stuff right there.
It's madness. But for people who watching this and they want to like check out some of the stuff you have released, and especially the stuff that you don't want your kids to find out about, where's the best place for people to like find out more about you and your products and all that side of things?
This is really just Google, to be honest. Like, if most Magic websites like Penguin or Theory 11 or whatever, the only one you won't get me on is Illusionist, and it's just because I will never release a thing with Illusionist. Most Magic websites, if you put in Alan Rorisson, you'll find something.
Cool.
But Google is probably your best bet. I tend not to say my own website because I use that primarily. There's a little store on there, but I primarily use it for like gigs and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But on Instagram at Alan Rorisson or at the.monstermaker, where you can see a bunch of the random props and stuff I make. And everything else is just at Alan Rorisson. You'll get me that way. I tend to keep things relatively easy, I should say.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, definitely recommend people to go check out that stuff. It's definitely some good stuff and stuff we've all used. So definitely go check that out and keep updated with us. And also make sure people like and subscribe on this video, no matter where you're watching it or if you listen to the audio thing. Follow us because that does help. It really does. So again, just thanks, Alan, for coming on, because we really appreciate you coming on, sharing all the stories, and enjoyed the rants as well, which are always good.
Every time I do one of these, I always panic that I've not given them enough worth, if that makes sense. Because when I'm not performing or building stuff, I'm a relatively boring old man. I'm always I hope it's worth it for them at least.
It's all about the rents. I don't know. My girlfriend thinks the equivalent of like magicians is like hairdressers, old women just bitching them on, and I think, to be honest, the more my career goes on, the more I believe it. But stay true for tune in for the rents.
Yeah, 100%.
And if you're offended by anything, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, my opinions aren't for everyone, but hey, they're out there. You can judge me for them.
We should call the podcast 3 Old Boring Men.
3 Old Boring Bastards.com.
Most magicians are cunts.
Except for these 3.
So, and everyone else that was on. And there's a few more.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't want to be a cunt, you have to subscribe.
Yeah.
There you go. Guilt them into it, man. Guilt them into it.
We'll clip that up. Thanks so much, Alan. And for people, we'll be back again with more podcasts. So make sure you tune in. I'm sure we'll have one next week as well. So stay tuned and keep an eye out and check out the Instagram as well for more details and reviews and all that sort of stuff. So thanks again, Alan. And we'll talk to everyone again next time on the Deceive.
Have a good one.
See you guys. All right.